In this tutorial, we will go over the key essential steps to applying an epoxy and flake floor. Starting with allocating power to your floor grinder. In the video shown, we are using the house's main power through their breaker box. Using the appropriate 30 amp double pole breaker, we have configured a 3-prong 220 volt receptacle so that we can supply power with quick disconnects.
This is done by using the breaker's positive and negative poles and connecting a 12-gauge wire to the appropriate ports on the receptacle. This leaves you with a ground wire as shown previously. To begin connecting your breaker, you will need to remove the screws surrounding the panel cover, and after the panel is removed, you will want to tighten your ground wire to the allocated ground bus bar before installing the breaker. When disconnecting your power adapter, you will want to flip your breaker to the off position, remove it from the bus bar, then remove ground. If not in that order, you're risking electric shock. Replace panel and protective covers where breakers aren't present, as shown. Before installing the receiver plates for your diamond discs, you want to ensure the discs are in decent shape. You want to ensure the pins are secure that hold the receiver plate. When plugging in your 220-volt power cord into your surface grinder, you want to twist the male and female plugs to lock, along with strapping the cord to your handle to ensure a secure line of power to your equipment. Using a silica dust collection vacuum, you will attach a hose to the dust pan on the grinder as shown. A HEPA respirator is advised. Ways to mitigate dust is by creating a shroud for your dust pan and securing the equipment with weights for stabilization. Before grinding, filling saw cut joints is advised, as you can grind the compound down to smooth out with the rest of the floor. Once dry,
before operating your surface grinder, you want to ensure the RPM is set to 0. Failure to do so can result in damage to the surface grinder. Periodically changing the rotation of your surface grinder can extend the lifespan and performance. During the operation of your surface grinder, it helps to go in a consistent pattern. Whether you glide side to side or cross hatch, the goal is to remove the top layer of cement so that it's porous for the epoxy to absorb into. Management of silica dust is crucial during the preparation of your floor. Silica dust is a hazardous substance that can be found in many construction materials, including concrete, mortar, and stone. It is made up of tiny particles that can become airborne when materials containing silica are cut, crushed, sanded, or drilled. Control joints, also known as contraction joints or crack control joints, are intentional cuts or grooves in concrete that help prevent cracking. To achieve a seamless epoxy floor, you may want to address high spots, ridges, or any inconsistencies that stand out. In this case, a dual edger was used the same way a handheld grinder would blend uneven surfaces. The method is more sustainable to one's health in a larger space. Preparation of your floor before applying epoxy is one of the most important steps, as it is the base and integrity of your finished floor product. Feel free to watch or skip the next 3 minutes. To prepare for the next step of your epoxy and flake process, you'll want to separate your boxes of flake into smaller buckets, as these will need to be held and carried around the garage for broadcasting flake into epoxy. Use a poly-based crack sealer to fill any cracks. Make sure to remove all particulates from the floor, as well as the air. Some surfaces may be too porous and need to be primed. Before mixing your epoxy, you will need to find the ratios of the product you're using. By following the order of operations on the container, you should have a basic understanding of the appropriate components needed, the optimal temps for storage and usage, and specs and data sheet links. Failure to follow the order of operations will lead to product failure. To achieve proper coverage on a vertical application with flake, I recommend applying epoxy, dumping a heaping pile of flake, and carrying the pile alongside the epoxy with a firm drag, embedding the flake while having proper coverage. After finishing your vertical applications, the excess flake will need to be vacuumed and picked up. When applying epoxy with a roller, a squeegee is recommended as the epoxy is fairly thick. After mixing your ratios of epoxy, have a crew member assist with applying epoxy to the perimeter. Make sure to use the epoxy cleats to suspend your weight from the floor. Pour a pile onto the floor, 2 feet away from the wall. Use your squeegee to maneuver the pile close to the wall while covering any areas without proper coverage. Once the epoxy is spread out, use your roller to evenly distribute the epoxy. flake is then applied by throwing the flake up, thus allowing the flake to lay flat. Failure to do so results in less full-size flake and discrepancies within the floor. On larger or monolithic floors where you are not able to stop at a control joint, a partial broadcast of flake should be applied when approaching floor without epoxy, as you want to achieve coverage with your roller without flake getting embedded in your roller. When squeegeeing the epoxy, you want to squeegee as much epoxy the squeegee will pick up. The epoxy is thick, leaving residual along its path. After 12 hours, the epoxy has cured long enough to collect flake. This is done by using a leaf blower. After the flake is picked up, the embedded flake is scraped. After the flake is scraped, the scraped flake is blown. The scraped flake is discarded. When applying your top coat, you want to address the walls, then perimeter with a brush or mini roller. Using a squeegee and a 3/8 roller, we can pour a pile of top coat on the floor and evenly distribute with the squeegee, then again with the roller, avoiding streaks by getting even coverage. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the tutorial and found it helpful.